Welcome. Tonight, you are standing at the edge of the ocean, where the sand meets the water in a line that shifts with every wave. The sky above is deepening from pale blue to violet to the dark navy of evening. The air is cool and tastes of salt. The waves move slowly, rolling in and pulling back, with a rhythm that has not changed in 1,000 years, in 10,000 years, in 1,000,000 years. This rhythm existed before you were born. It will continue long after you are gone. The ocean does not hurry. It does not force. It does not demand that things happen on any particular schedule. It simply moves, patient and endless, wearing down stone one grain at a time, shaping the shore with the gentle persistence of water that knows it has all the time in the world. Tonight, you do not need to rush anywhere. You do not need to push or force or make anything happen. You do not need to be anywhere other than exactly where you are. You only need to be here, breathing with the waves, letting time move through you the way water moves through sand, slowly, naturally, without resistance. Let your body settle now into wherever you are resting. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Let your jaw unclench, your tongue resting softly in your mouth. Let the muscles in your face relax, letting go of whatever expression you've been holding all day. Let your breath match the rhythm of the tide, slow, steady, deep, without effort. Breathing in like a wave coming to shore, breathing out like a wave retreating back to sea. Tonight, I am going to tell you stories from a small fishing village by the sea, where people learned that patience is not waiting passively for something to happen. It is trusting deeply that things will unfold in their own time. It is knowing that the right things come at the right moment, if only you can stop trying to force the ocean to give up its fish before they are ready to be caught. So, close your eyes now, if you haven't already. Feel the rhythm of your breath moving in and out, in and out. Feel the rhythm of the waves in your imagination, always moving, never stopping, never hurrying. And let the first story begin, where a young fisherman learns from his grandfather what it truly means to wait. There was once a young man named Kaito who lived in a small village by the sea. The village was ancient, built where the land met the water, where generations of families had made their living from the ocean for as long as anyone could remember. Kaito's family had been fishermen for as far back as the stories went. His grandfather had been a fisherman, his father had been a fisherman. His uncles, his cousins, all of them went out in boats each morning before dawn and returned with fish to sell at the market. Kaito was 17 years old, strong and capable and burning with the desire to prove himself. He wanted to be seen as a man. He wanted to be respected. He wanted to bring in the biggest catches, to earn the most money, to show everyone that he was just as skilled as the older fishermen, perhaps even more skilled. Every morning, he woke in the dark, long before the sun had even thought about rising. He prepared his boat with quick, efficient movements. He checked his nets, gathered his lines, loaded his supplies, and the moment there was enough light to see by, he was out on the water, rowing hard, moving fast, always searching for the best spots, the places where fish might gather. He cast his nets quickly, pulled them in quickly, moved from spot to spot with restless energy, always thinking that the next location would be better, that the next cast would bring the big catch he was seeking. But day after day, his nets came up light. Small fish, thin fish, nothing impressive. Sometimes just a few fish, sometimes nothing at all. Meanwhile, his grandfather, an old man named Takeshi, would go out in his small weathered boat each morning. Takeshi moved slowly, his body stiff with age, his movements deliberate and unhurried. He would row to one spot, always the same spot, or nearly the same, and he would cast his net once, maybe twice. and when he pulled it in, the net would be heavy, straining with fat, gleaming fish that flashed silver in the morning light. Kaito watched this pattern repeat day after day, and he could not understand it. How could his grandfather, who was old and slow, who barely moved from one location, who cast his net only once or twice, catch more fish than Kaito, who worked so hard, who moved so quickly, who tried so many different places? It made no sense. One evening, as they sat together by a small fire on the beach, mending nets in the fading light, Kaito finally spoke what had been bothering him. "Grandfather," he said, trying to keep the frustration out of his voice, "why do you catch more fish than I do? I work harder than you. I move faster. I try more places. I cast my net many times. But my boat is always lighter than yours. Why?" Takeshi looked at his grandson with calm, dark eyes that held the depth of decades spent watching the ocean. He tied off a knot in the net he was mending and set it aside carefully. "That is why you catch nothing," he said quietly. Kaito frowned, not understanding. "What do you mean?" Takeshi smiled slightly. "You work harder. You move faster. You try more places. That is exactly why your nets are empty." "I don't understand," Kaito said, his frustration now evident in his voice. Takeshi stood slowly, his joints creaking slightly with the movement. "Come with me tomorrow morning. Do not bring your boat. Come in mine. I will show you." The next morning, in the cold darkness before dawn, Kaito met his grandfather at the water's edge. They climbed into Takeshi's small boat together, a boat that had been in their family for decades, its wood worn smooth by countless hands, its paint faded by sun and salt. Takeshi rowed slowly, his movements steady and unhurried. Each stroke of the oars was deliberate, placing the blade in the water at exactly the right angle, pulling with exactly the right force, lifting it out cleanly. There was no wasted motion, no extra effort, just simple, efficient rowing that moved the boat forward at a steady pace. They moved away from shore, heading out to where the water was deeper and darker, where the bottom dropped away and the ocean became a mystery. Takeshi stopped rowing when they reached a certain spot. Kaito looked around. There was nothing to mark this location, no landmark on shore, no buoy in the water. It looked exactly like every other spot in the ocean. But Takeshi seemed to know, with some sense that Kaito did not possess, that this was the right place. The old man sat still, looking at the water. Kaito waited. Minutes passed. The sky began to lighten very gradually in the east, the black fading to deep blue, then to lighter blue, then to pale gray touched with pink. Kaito grew restless. He could see other fishing boats in the distance, already casting their nets, already pulling them in, already working. "Grandfather," he said, "should we cast the net now?" "Not yet," Takeshi said calmly, still watching the water. More time passed. The sun began to edge above the horizon, turning the water gold and orange. The world became brighter. Kaito could see the surface of the ocean clearly now, could see the gentle movement of the waves, the way the light played across the water. "Now?" Kaito asked again, unable to keep the impatience from his voice. "Not yet," Takeshi replied. Kaito shifted uncomfortably on his seat in the boat. He could feel the urge to do something, anything, to cast the net, to row to a different spot, to move, to act, to make something happen. Sitting still felt wrong. It felt like wasting time. But Takeshi sat perfectly still, watching the water with an expression of calm attention, not straining, not tense, just watching, waiting, being present with what was in front of him. Finally, after what felt like an eternity but was probably only 15 or 20 minutes, Takeshi nodded once, a small movement of his head. "Now," he said. He picked up the net and cast it in one smooth, practiced motion. The net spread wide and fell onto the water like a flower opening, then sank beneath the surface. They waited again, but this waiting felt different. Kaito could sense something, though he couldn't have said what it was. When Takeshi began to pull the net in, it was immediately clear that it was heavy, very heavy. The old man pulled slowly, steadily, his weathered hands gripping the rope with practiced ease. As the net rose from the water, Kaito could see it was full, absolutely full of large silver fish that flashed and gleamed in the morning sunlight. They filled the bottom of the boat, dozens of them, far more than Kaito had caught in the last week combined. Kaito stared in amazement. "But how did you know? How did you know they would be there? How did you know when to cast the net?" Takeshi began sorting the fish with gentle hands, keeping the good ones and releasing a few small ones back into the water. "Because I waited," he said simply. "But how did you know when to wait? How did you know the fish would come?" Takeshi looked at his grandson. "I did not know, but I trusted." He continued working with the fish as he spoke. "The fish have their own time, Kaito. They move with the current, with the tide, with the temperature of the water, with rhythms you cannot see or measure. They follow patterns that are older than human memory. If you are impatient, if you cast your net when they are not ready, when they have not yet arrived, you catch nothing. But if you wait, if you watch, if you trust that they will come when they are meant to come, then the ocean gives you what you need." Kaito was quiet, turning this over in his mind. It seemed so simple and yet so impossible. But what if you are wrong? What if you wait and the fish don't come? Takeshi smiled. "Then I wait another day. Patience is not knowing that things will happen exactly as you want them to. It is trusting that they will happen when the time is right, and being willing to wait, even when you do not know how long that will be, even when your mind tells you that you are wasting time, even when you see others catching fish and you begin to doubt yourself." He looked directly at Kaito. "You are young, you are strong, you have energy and ambition. These are good things, but you are trying to force the ocean to give you what you want on your schedule. And the ocean does not work that way. The ocean has its own schedule, the fish have their own time, and no amount of rushing or working harder will change that." He paused, letting his words settle. True patience is not passive. It is not just sitting and doing nothing. It is active waiting. It is paying attention. It is being present. It is watching for the signs that tell you when the moment is right, and then acting decisively when that moment arrives. Kaito looked down at the fish in the boat, then out at the water, then back at his grandfather's weathered face. "Will you teach me?" he asked quietly. "I am teaching you now," Takeshi replied. "But the ocean is the real teacher. I can only show you how to listen." The next morning, Kaito went out alone in his own boat. But this time, he did not rush. He rowed slowly, feeling each stroke of the oars, paying attention to the movement of the boat through the water. He went to the deeper water, to a spot that felt right, though he could not have explained why. And then he waited. It was difficult, perhaps the most difficult thing he had ever done. His mind raced with thoughts. His hands itched to cast the net. Every instinct told him to move, to try a different spot, to do something other than just sit there. But he waited. He watched the water. He watched the way the light changed as the sun rose. He watched the patterns of the waves, the way the surface moved. He felt the boat beneath him, rising and falling gently with the swell. He listened to the sounds, the slap of water against the hull, the cry of gulls in the distance, the whisper of wind, and slowly, gradually, his mind began to quiet. The restless energy began to settle. He began to feel something he could not name, a sense of connection with the water, a sense of being part of something much larger than himself. Time passed. He did not know how much time. It might have been 10 minutes or 30 or an hour. Time seemed to lose its meaning. And then, suddenly, he felt it, a shift, a knowing that came from somewhere other than his thinking mind, a sense that now, right now, was the moment. He cast his net. When he pulled it in, it was heavy. Not as heavy as his grandfather's had been, but far heavier than any net he had pulled before. The fish were there, good fish, fat and healthy and gleaming. Kaito smiled, not because of the fish themselves, though he was glad to have them, but because he had learned something his hands alone could never teach him. He had learned to trust the ocean, to trust time, to trust that patience was not passive weakness but active strength, to trust that some things cannot be forced, only received when the moment is right. Over the following weeks and months, Kaito continued to practice this new way of fishing. Some days were abundant, some days were lean, but gradually his catches became more consistent. And more than that, his relationship with the ocean changed. He was no longer fighting against it, trying to take from it what he wanted. He was learning to move with it, to receive what it offered when it was ready to give. One evening, many weeks later, as he sat with his grandfather mending nets by the fire, Takeshi looked at him with approval. "You are learning," the old man said. "Yes," Kaito replied, "but I am still learning. The ocean has many lessons, and I have only just begun to hear them." Takeshi smiled. "Then you have learned the most important lesson of all. That patience is not something you master once and then possess forever. It is something you practice every day for your entire life. Each morning, you must remember again to wait, to trust, to be present with what is, rather than rushing toward what you think should be." Kaito nodded, understanding in a way he could not have understood even a few months before, and the ocean continued its eternal rhythm, waves rolling in and pulling back, teaching anyone willing to listen the ancient lesson of patience. And where the tide meets the shore and the fishing boats rest on the sand, another story waits to be told. There was once a woman named Hoshiko who lived in the same coastal village. She was a net maker, one of the best in the region. Her nets were known for their strength and durability. They did not tear easily. They did not tangle. Fishermen would travel from other villages to commission nets from her skilled hands. Her work was slow and meticulous. She sat on the porch of her small house each day, overlooking the water, her hands moving steadily through the endless process of creating nets. Loop after loop, knot after knot, row after row. A single net could take weeks to complete, sometimes even a month for a large one. The fishermen respected her work deeply. They knew her nets were worth waiting for, worth the price she charged. They knew that a net made by Hoshiko would last for years, would serve them reliably in all conditions. But Hoshiko had a daughter named Yuki, who was 15 years old and restless, with the particular restlessness of young people who feel that life is happening somewhere else, in some other place, and they are missing it. Yuki did not want to be a net maker. She did not want to live in this small village where everyone knew everyone else, where every day was much like the day before, where the same people did the same work in the same way they had done it for generations. She wanted to leave. She wanted to see cities with tall buildings and crowded streets. She wanted to visit mountains and forests and places where life moved faster, where exciting things happened, where she could be someone other than the netmaker's daughter. She sat with her mother one afternoon, watching her work with barely concealed impatience. "Mother," Yuki said, "why do you work so slowly? If you worked faster, you could make more nets. You could earn more money. You could, I don't know, do something more with your life." Hoshiko's hands did not stop their steady movement. Loop, pull, knot, loop, pull, knot. "I work as fast as the net needs me to work," she said calmly. Yuki sighed, a dramatic exhalation that communicated her frustration. "But it takes you so long. Weeks and weeks for a single net. Don't you get bored? Don't you want to be done and move on to something else?" "No," Hoshiko said simply, her focus never leaving the work in her hands. "Why not?" Yuki asked, genuinely puzzled. Hoshiko paused for a moment, considering her answer. Then she looked at her daughter. "Because I am not thinking about the finished net. I am thinking about this knot, this loop, this moment." She returned to her work, her fingers moving with practiced ease. "If I think about how long it will take to finish, I become impatient. If I think about how much work is still left to do, I become tired and discouraged. If I think about all the other nets I will need to make in my lifetime, I become overwhelmed. But if I focus only on this knot, right here, right now, then there is no impatience. There is no exhaustion. There is no overwhelm. There is only this single movement, this single moment. And this moment is always enough." Yuki watched her mother's hands. Loop, pull, knot, loop, pull, knot. The movements were hypnotic in their consistency, in their steady rhythm. "But what if you make a mistake?" Yuki asked. Hoshiko smiled slightly. "Then I undo it and do it again." Patience is not about never making mistakes. It is about being willing to go back, to start over when necessary, without anger or frustration. It is accepting that some things take the time they take and cannot be rushed. Yuki fell silent, watching her mother work. She wanted to understand, but she couldn't quite grasp what her mother was trying to tell her. It all seemed so slow, so confined, so small. "I don't think I could do what you do," Yuki said after a while. Hoshiko looked at her with warm eyes. "You could. You simply have not learned yet." "Learned what?" "That rushing does not make things happen faster," Hoshiko said. "It only makes you tired and frustrated. It only makes you miss the actual experience of doing the thing you are doing. But patience, real patience, gives you energy. It gives you peace. Because you are not fighting against time. You are moving with it. You are not trying to be somewhere else. You are fully here, in this moment, doing this work." Yuki did not understand. But something in her mother's words lingered in her mind over the following days. Days passed. Weeks passed. Yuki continued to watch her mother work, and gradually, almost without realizing it, she began to notice things she had not noticed before. The way her mother's face was completely relaxed, peaceful as she worked. The way she never seemed hurried or stressed, even when she had multiple orders to fill. The way she seemed content. Genuinely content. In a way that Yuki herself rarely felt. One day, almost on impulse, Yuki picked up a piece of cord from her mother's basket of supplies. "Will you teach me? Just one knot. Show me how to do one knot." Hoshiko's face lit up with a smile that made her look younger. "Of course." She showed Yuki the basic knot, how to loop the cord, how to pass it through, how to pull it tight. It looked simple when Hoshiko did it. Yuki tried. Her fingers fumbled, the cord tangled, the knot was loose and crooked. She felt frustration rise immediately in her chest. "I can't do it." "You can," Hoshiko said patiently. "Try again, slower this time." Yuki untangled the cord and tried again. Still wrong. "Again," Hoshiko said gently. Yuki felt the urge to throw the cord down, to walk away, to give up. This was exactly why she didn't want to do this work. It was too hard. It took too long. She wanted to be good at it immediately, or not do it at all. But she looked at her mother's calm face, at the patience in her eyes, and something made her try again. This time, she moved more slowly. She paid attention to each movement, and the knot held. It wasn't perfect, but it held. She looked up at her mother, surprised. "Good," Hoshiko said. "Now do it again." Yuki did it again, and again, and again. At first, each knot took her several minutes. Her fingers felt clumsy and stupid. But gradually, very gradually, they began to learn. The movements became slightly smoother. The time decreased from minutes to less than a minute. By the end of the afternoon, she had made a small section of net, maybe 20 knots. It was imperfect and uneven, nothing like her mother's perfect work. But it was hers. She had made it. She held it up, amazed that her own hands had created something real, something that would actually hold together. Hoshiko set down her own work and examined Yuki's net section carefully. She ran her fingers over the knots, testing them. "This is good," she said sincerely. "Really?" Yuki asked, surprised. "But it's so messy. It's nothing like yours." "It is good because you did not give up," Hoshiko said. "You wanted to quit. I could see it in your face. You felt frustrated and impatient, but you kept going. You were patient with yourself, with the process, with the learning. That is the most important thing." Yuki felt something warm and unfamiliar bloom in her chest. Pride, perhaps, or satisfaction, or something deeper, a sense of having done something worthwhile, even though it had been difficult. "I think I understand now," Yuki said slowly. "A little bit anyway." "Understand what?" Hoshiko asked. "That patience is not about waiting for something to be done," Yuki said. "It's about being present with the doing. It's about not rushing through to get to the end, but actually being here for each step along the way." Hoshiko smiled, her eyes shining. "Yes, exactly yes." From that day forward, Yuki sat beside her mother on the porch each afternoon. She practiced making knots, then sections of net, then eventually full nets of her own. She still dreamed of traveling, of seeing cities and mountains, but the urgency had faded. The feeling that life was happening somewhere else had diminished, because she had learned something essential, that life was not somewhere else. It was here, in her hands, in each knot, in each moment of attention and presence. She learned that there was nowhere she needed to rush to, because wherever she went, she would still be herself, still in this moment, still with these hands doing whatever work was in front of her. And in learning patience through the slow making of nets, she found something unexpected. Not excitement or adventure, at least not yet, but something perhaps more valuable: contentment, peace, the ability to be where she was and feel that it was enough. And in the quiet of evening, when the fishing boats return to shore and the nets are spread to dry, another tale begins. There was once a monk named Ren who lived in a small temple on a hill overlooking the sea. The temple was old and modest, home to only 3 monks, Ren, his teacher, and one other student. Ren was young, in his late 20s, and he had come to the temple 3 years earlier, seeking enlightenment. He had been a merchant before, successful and wealthy, but something had felt empty in that life. He had given up everything, his business, his money, his comfortable home, to pursue spiritual awakening. He meditated every day for hours. He studied the sutras diligently. He practiced mindfulness with intense focus. He followed every instruction his teacher gave him with devoted attention. But enlightenment did not come. He felt no closer to understanding the nature of reality than he had 3 years ago. His mind was just as noisy. His ego was just as present. He still felt anger, jealousy, frustration, desire, all the things he thought would disappear with spiritual practice. As time passed, his frustration grew into something harder, more bitter. He felt he was wasting his time. He felt he had given up everything for nothing. One evening, after a particularly difficult meditation session where his mind had been especially loud and uncooperative, Ren went to his teacher, an old monk named Koan. "Teacher," Ren said, his voice tight with suppressed anger, "I have been here for 3 years. I have done everything you asked. I meditate for hours every day. I study constantly. I follow all the precepts. But I am no closer to enlightenment than when I started. What am I doing wrong? Why am I failing?" Kohan looked at him with calm, unreadable eyes that seemed to see through Ren's words to something underneath. "You are in a hurry," he said simply. Ren felt his frustration spike. "Yes, I am in a hurry. I gave up my entire life for this. I want to understand. I want to be enlightened. I want to stop suffering." "Why?" Koan asked. Ren blinked, caught off guard by the question. "Why?" Because suffering is painful. Because I want to be free from it. Because I want to understand the nature of reality. Because I want to..." He stopped, realizing he was just circling the same points. Koan nodded slowly. "And you think enlightenment will give you these things?" "Yes," Ren said. "Isn't that the point?" Koan stood and walked to the window of his small room. He looked out at the ocean, vast and dark under the evening sky. The sun had already set, and the water was beginning to disappear into shadow. "Do you see the ocean?" he asked. "Yes," Ren replied, not understanding what this had to do with anything. "How long does it take for a wave to reach the shore?" Ren frowned, impatient with what seemed like an irrelevant question. "I don't know. A few seconds? Maybe a minute?" "No," Koan said quietly. "It takes forever." That wave began as a ripple, perhaps on the other side of the world, perhaps thousands of miles from here. It was created by wind, by the movement of water, by forces you cannot see. It traveled across the entire ocean, over days, over weeks, perhaps over months. It rose and fell with storms. It was shaped by currents and tides. And only now, in this moment, after all that time, after that entire journey, does it finally touch the shore. He turned to look at Ren directly. Enlightenment is like that wave. It is not something you reach by forcing. It is not something you achieve by trying harder or being more disciplined or meditating more hours. It is something that comes when it comes. It is the result of countless causes and conditions, many of which you cannot see or control. Your job is not to make it happen. Your job is not to force the wave to arrive on your schedule. Your job is simply to be ready when it arrives. Ren felt anger and frustration warring with something else in his chest, maybe recognition, maybe fear. But how do I know when it will come? How do I know I'm doing the right things? How do I know I'm not wasting my time? You don't, Koan said simply, and there was a kind of kindness in his bluntness. That is the practice, to keep walking the path without knowing when or even if you will arrive, to keep meditating without demanding results, to keep studying without expecting immediate understanding, to trust that the practice itself is enough, even when you cannot see where it is leading. Ren clenched his fists, feeling something like despair. But I am tired of waiting. I am tired of not knowing. I am tired of feeling like I am getting nowhere. I know, Koan said gently. Everyone feels this way eventually. This tiredness, this frustration, this sense that you are wasting your time, these are themselves part of the path. They are not obstacles to enlightenment. They are part of the journey the wave makes across the ocean. He moved closer to Ren and placed a hand on his shoulder. What should you do? Let go. Let go of the timeline. Let go of the expectation that enlightenment should have happened by now. Let go of the idea that spiritual practice is about reaching a destination. Let go of comparing yourself to others or to some imagined version of yourself who is already enlightened. He paused. Just practice. Just sit. Just breathe. Just be present with whatever arises, whether it is peace or frustration, clarity or confusion, joy or despair. And trust that the ocean knows when to bring the wave to shore. Your forcing will not make it happen faster. Your patience will not slow it down. It will come when it comes. Ren returned to his meditation cushion that evening, feeling no better, no more enlightened, but he sat anyway. And this time, instead of sitting with determination, with the fierce effort to achieve something, he sat with surrender, with acceptance, with the exhausted recognition that he could not force this, could not make it happen, could not control when or how understanding would come. He did not try to make his mind quiet. He did not demand insight. He did not push away difficult thoughts or cling to pleasant ones. He simply sat. Days passed, weeks, months. Nothing dramatic happened. There was no flash of light, no sudden moment of clarity, no experience of cosmic unity. But gradually, almost imperceptibly, something began to shift. He noticed that his frustration with his practice had less grip on him. He noticed that he could sit without constantly checking to see if he was making progress. He noticed that some days his mind was quiet and some days it was loud, and both were fine, both were just what was. He noticed one morning while sitting in meditation and watching his breath that he had stopped waiting for enlightenment. He had stopped thinking about it as something in the future that he needed to reach. He was simply here, breathing, being present with this moment exactly as it was. And in that moment, not dramatic, not special, just an ordinary morning in late summer with light coming through the window and the sound of waves in the distance, he realized something so simple it almost made him laugh. He had been seeking something he already had. He had been trying to become something he already was. Enlightenment was not a destination he needed to reach. It was not a state he needed to achieve. It was simply this: being fully present with whatever is, without needing it to be different, without needing to be different. He opened his eyes. The room looked the same. The ocean was still visible through the window, waves still rolling to shore in their eternal rhythm. Nothing had changed, and yet everything had changed. He smiled not because he had achieved enlightenment, but because he had stopped needing to. The wave had arrived, not because he had forced it, but because he had finally stopped trying to make it come faster. Later that day, he found Koan sweeping the temple courtyard. "Teacher," Ren said. I think I understand now. Koan looked up from his sweeping. Understand what? That patience is not waiting for enlightenment to come, Ren said. It is recognizing that it is already here, that it has always been here. That every moment of sitting, every moment of frustration, every moment of confusion, all of it was enlightenment. I was just too busy looking ahead to notice what was right in front of me. Koan smiled, a warm, genuine smile that transformed his usually serious face. Yes. The wave arrived. When? Ren asked. The moment you stopped waiting for it, Koan replied, and they both laughed, the sound carrying across the courtyard and out toward the sea, where waves continued their patient journey to shore. And now, as the stars emerge and the tide turns and the fishing village settles into night, one last story remains. There was once an old fisherman named Daiichi who lived alone in a small hut at the very edge of the village, right where the sand met the grass, where the wild land began. He was very old, some said the oldest person in the village, though no one knew exactly how old. His skin was dark and weathered like leather that had been left in the sun and salt for decades. His hands were gnarled and scarred from a lifetime of work with ropes and nets and fish. His back was bent, his movements slow and deliberate. He had been a fisherman all his life. But now he was too old to go out in a boat. His body could no longer handle the rowing, the casting of nets, the pulling of heavy catches. So instead, he sat on the shore each day with a single fishing line, casting it into the shallow water near the beach. The children of the village watched him with a mixture of curiosity and pity. He sat for hours and hours, sometimes all day, and he rarely caught anything. Maybe one small fish, maybe nothing at all. They thought he was foolish. Or maybe just stubborn, an old man who couldn't accept that his fishing days were over, who insisted on this pointless ritual of casting a line into water that everyone knew held very few fish. One day, a boy named Kenji approached him. Kenji was 12 years old, bold and curious, the kind of child who asked questions that adults sometimes found uncomfortable. Old man, Kenji said, plopping himself down on the sand next to Daiichi. Why do you fish here? There are no fish in the shallows. Everyone knows that. If you want to catch fish, you need to go out to deep water. But you just sit here, day after day, catching nothing. Why? Daiichi smiled, a smile that created deep lines around his eyes and mouth. I am not fishing for fish, he said. Kenji frowned. Then what are you fishing for? Patience, Daiichi said simply. The boy's frown deepened. How can you fish for patience? That doesn't make sense. Daiichi gestured to the sand beside him. Sit with me, and I will show you. Kenji, intrigued despite himself, sat down. Daiichi handed him the fishing line. Hold this. When you feel a tug, pull gently, not hard, gently. Kenji took the line, feeling the weight of it in his hands, feeling the slight tension as the current pulled on the hook somewhere beneath the surface. He waited. Minutes passed. His arms started to grow tired from holding the line. He shifted his weight on the sand, trying to find a more comfortable position. How long do we wait? He asked. As long as it takes, Daiichi replied calmly. But what if nothing comes? Then we wait longer. Kenji sighed, a dramatic exhalation of frustration. His mind wandered. He thought about his friends, who were probably playing games right now. He thought about the interesting shells he had seen further down the beach that he wanted to collect. He thought about how boring this was, just sitting here, holding a line, waiting for nothing. This is boring, he said bluntly. Daiichi chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling. Yes, it is. Then why do you do it? Daichi looked out at the water, his old eyes tracking the movement of the waves, the changing colors as clouds passed over the sun. Because boredom is just impatience wearing a different face. When you can sit with boredom, when you can be present even when nothing interesting is happening, even when your mind is telling you that you should be somewhere else doing something else, then you have learned something valuable. Kenji was quiet, thinking about this. He didn't fully understand, but something in the old man's words felt important, even if he couldn't quite grasp why. More time passed. The sun moved across the sky. The tide slowly came in, the waves reaching a little farther up the beach with each repetition. Kenji watched the water. He watched the way it moved, the patterns it made, the way foam formed and dissolved. He watched a crab scuttle sideways across the wet sand. He watched birds diving for fish further out where the water was deeper. And gradually, without realizing it was happening, his mind grew quieter. The urge to be somewhere else faded. The feeling of wasting time diminished. He found himself simply sitting, simply being present, simply watching. Then, suddenly, the line tugged in his hands. Kenji gasped. "I feel something." "Pull gently," Daichi reminded him. Kenji pulled carefully, not too hard. The line came up, and at the end of it was a small fish, nothing impressive, just a little silver fish that fit in the palm of his hand. But Kenji laughed with delight, surprised by the genuine joy he felt at this small success. Daichi smiled and gently took the fish, removing the hook from its mouth with practiced ease. Then, to Kenji's surprise, he released it back into the water. Kenji's smile faded. "Why did you let it go?" "We caught it." Daichi watched the fish disappear beneath the surface. "Because I was not fishing for the fish, I was fishing for the patience, and you found it." Kenji looked at the old man, confusion and understanding mixing in his young face. I'm not sure I understand." "You waited," Daichi said. "You wanted to leave. You were bored. You thought this was a waste of time. But you stayed. You kept holding the line. You kept being present, even when nothing was happening. And then, when the fish came, you were ready. You were here. You didn't miss it because you had given up and left." He looked at Kenji kindly. "That is patience. Not knowing if anything will happen, but being willing to be present anyway. Not rushing off to the next thing because this thing is not exciting enough. Being able to sit with nothing happening and be okay with it." Kenji was quiet for a long moment, absorbing this. Then he asked, "Will you teach me? Will you let me fish with you again?" Daichi's smile deepened, his weathered face transforming with genuine pleasure. "I already have taught you, but yes, you may come back. The ocean is a patient teacher. It has many lessons, and you have only learned the first one." From that day forward, Kenji returned to the shore most afternoons after his chores were done. He sat with Daichi, holding the line, waiting. Sometimes they caught fish. Sometimes they didn't. But Kenji learned that it didn't matter. The waiting was the gift. The patience was the catch. In learning to sit with nothing happening, he learned to sit with everything. He learned that he didn't need to be constantly entertained, constantly stimulated, constantly moving to the next thing. He learned that there was a deep richness in simply being present, especially when nothing dramatic was occurring. And years later, when Kenji was grown and Daichi had long since passed away, Kenji would sit on that same beach with his own grandchildren and teach them the same lesson the old fisherman had taught him. That patience is not waiting for life to begin. It is being fully alive in the waiting. And now, the tide is turning, pulling back from the shore as night deepens, The moon has risen, casting a silver path across the dark water. The fishing village is quiet, lights glowing softly in windows, smoke rising from chimneys. You have sat with fishermen and net makers, with monks and old men, with young people learning what their elders knew, that patience is not weakness but strength, not passivity but active presence, not waiting for something to begin but recognizing that it has already begun, right here, right now. You have learned what the ocean teaches, that some things cannot be forced, only received. That rushing does not make things happen faster, it only makes you miss the actual experience of what is happening. That the wave comes when the wave comes, and your job is simply to be ready, to be present, to be here when it arrives. And now, it is time to let these stories dissolve like foam on the shore, like footprints washed away by the tide. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Let your breath match the rhythm of the waves, slow, steady, endless, without effort. You do not need to hurry anywhere. You do not need to make anything happen. You do not need to force or push or demand that life give you what you want on your schedule. You only need to rest, to trust, to let time unfold the way waves unfold on sand, slowly, naturally, perfectly. So close your eyes now, if they are not already closed. Feel the rhythm of the ocean in your breath. Feel the patience of the tide in your body, and let yourself drift, softly, completely, gratefully, into the deep and peaceful sleep that has been waiting for you all along, patient as the sea, ready to receive you when you are ready to let go. Good night.